I never thought the person who ruined my life would be family. I never thought my own cousin would poison me, record my breakdown, and then adopt my children as if they were hers. When the judge called me a danger to my own kids, I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe it was real. I sat there, numb, watching the screen in the courtroom as a video of me played in front of strangers. I was barefoot, screaming at walls, crying, ripping apart my kitchen like some kind of wild animal, and then the camera panned, just enough to show who was filming. My cousin, Claire, my best friend since childhood, the woman I trusted with my medicine, my kids, my life. The judge leaned forward, his voice steady, rehearsed. Miss Lane, this court finds that you are presently incapable of providing a safe environment for your children. The sound of the gavel hit harder than any drug ever could. I didn't cry. Not in that moment. Not even when I saw my little boy, Eli, clutching Claire's hand as she led him out of the courtroom like she'd been his mother all along. My daughter, Sophie, followed, half asleep, clutching the teddy bear I'd given her the night before. That image, it's burned into my mind like a scar that'll never heal. People always say betrayal hurts most when it comes from someone you love, but what they don't tell you is how quiet the world becomes afterward, how the noise in your head, every thought, every scream, just stops. For weeks after the hearing, I replayed that moment in my head. How did I get there? How did she do this to me? To anyone watching, it looked simple. A woman with a history of depression, erratic, unstable, unfit. But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that the breakdown they saw wasn't mine. It was something Claire created. She'd switched my antidepressants with hallucinogens weeks before the hearing. She made me see things, hear things, lose control. And when I fell apart, she was right there with her phone, recording every second. And the court believed her. Everyone did. The thing is, before that day, Claire wasn't just my cousin. She was my lifeline. After my divorce, when my husband Mark left and started fighting for custody, she was the only one who stayed. My parents were supportive, sure, but they lived states away. Claire moved in for a while, said she wanted to help me get back on my feet. She cooked for the kids, picked them up from school, organized my meds, everything. She made herself indispensable, and I let her. I used to call her my angel. I told my therapist that Claire was the reason I was still alive. If only I'd known the truth, that every meal she made, every pill she handed me, every sympathetic hug was part of her plan. You don't realize how evil can look like kindness until it's too late. When I started feeling strange, shaky, paranoid, nauseous, I thought it was the stress. The custody battle had been brutal, and my doctor said the dosage change might take a few weeks to adjust. Claire was the one who told me that. "Don't worry, Jess," she'd say, rubbing my shoulder. "You're just detoxing from all the court anxiety. You're fine." She smiled when she said it, so I believed her. Then the hallucinations started, lights flickering that weren't flickering, voices whispering from the hallway when no one was there, the smell of smoke that didn't exist. I thought I was losing my mind, and when the police came that night, the night she found me hysterical, screaming in my kitchen, I begged her not to call them. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I'm doing this because I love you." That's the last thing she said before the ambulance took me away. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed with restraints on my wrists. They said I'd had a psychotic episode. I couldn't prove otherwise. No one believed me when I said something felt wrong. Claire sat beside me, fake crying, whispering, "You'll get through this, Jess. I've got the kids for now, okay?" And I remember staring at her, trying to see when she'd stopped being family and started being my enemy. The truth is, I never saw it coming. Because evil doesn't announce itself. It just smiles, says, "I love you," and hands you the wrong pill. 2 years later, when her lawyer called me saying, "Jessica, we need to talk, now," I finally understood just how deep her betrayal went. But that's not where this story ends. That's where it really begins. Before everything went wrong, my life looked almost normal from the outside. I lived in a small rented townhouse on the edge of Portland. 2 bedrooms, creaky stairs, and a patch of grass I used to call a backyard. It wasn't much, but it was safe. Every morning, I'd wake up before the kids, brew cheap coffee in a chipped mug, and sit by the window just to watch the fog lift off the street. It sounds peaceful now, but back then, it was survival. Those quiet moments were the only time I could breathe before the noise of the day started. Eli, my 7-year-old, was always the first one up. He'd run downstairs in superhero pajamas, hair sticking up like a cartoon. Sophie, 5, followed him everywhere, half asleep, dragging her pink blanket behind her like a cape. They were chaos and sunshine in equal measure. I was doing my best: therapy once a week, antidepressants every morning, part-time work at a bookstore downtown. My therapist kept saying, progress isn't a straight line. It loops, it dips, but it still moves forward. I believed her. And when Claire offered to move in, just for a few months, it felt like a blessing. She was my cousin, but honestly, more like a sister. We'd grown up together. Sleepovers, late-night talks, all of it. After my divorce, she'd been the first one to show up at my door. She told me she'd take some time off from work to help with the kids, cook dinners, keep me on schedule. I remember hugging her, crying into her shoulder, whispering, "I don't know how to thank you." She said, "You don't have to. Family takes care of each other." That's what made it easy to trust her. She knew my routines, when I took my meds, when I had therapy, when I couldn't get out of bed. She knew everything. The first few weeks were perfect. She'd pick up the kids from school, pack their lunches, even fold their laundry into neat stacks with little notes inside. Sophie started calling her Auntie C. It warmed my heart. At night, after the kids went to sleep, Claire and I would sit on the porch with tea, wrapped in blankets, talking about life. She'd listen as I vented about my ex, Mark, and the custody hearings. She always had the right thing to say. Claire: "He's trying to break you down, Jess. You can't let him win." Me: "I'm just tired. I don't want to fight anymore." Claire: "Then I'll fight for you." It sounded noble, like she really cared, but sometimes there were small moments, tiny cracks I ignored. She'd glance at my medication bottle and say things like, "You really think you need all that?" Or she'd joke, "If you stopped taking those pills, maybe you'd feel more like yourself again." I brushed it off. She was just being blunt, I thought. She'd never hurt me. By October, my life had a rhythm again. I dropped the kids off, went to work, came home, cooked dinner. I was still anxious about the custody case, but I was hopeful. My lawyer said things were leaning in my favor: steady employment, therapy attendance, clean drug screens. I even started smiling again. One night, I came home to find Claire and the kids baking cookies. The kitchen was a mess, flour everywhere. She looked up and laughed. "We're making memories." That's what I wanted, memories that didn't hurt. Later, when I tucked Sophie in, she said, "Mommy, Auntie C says you're brave." My chest tightened. I whispered, "She's right, baby. We're all brave." I wish I'd recorded that night somehow, the smell of cookies, the laughter, the light, because that was the last real moment of peace I ever had. A few days later, Claire started insisting she handle my medication. "You forget sometimes," she said gently. "It's better if I organize it for you." She bought one of those little plastic pill boxes, labeled by day. I didn't question it. Honestly, I was grateful. My memory wasn't great when stress hit, and I wanted to believe she was just helping. The week after that, things started to feel off. My stomach turned at random times. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, dizzy, seeing faint colors in the corners of my eyes. I told Claire, and she nodded sympathetically. Me: "Maybe the dosage changed?" Claire: "Maybe. I'll check with the pharmacy." She never did, but back then, I couldn't see the pattern. I was just a mom trying to stay strong, holding my little family together with hope and duct tape. When people watched that courtroom video later, the one where I looked completely insane, they didn't see this part. They didn't see how much I loved my kids, how hard I worked to keep going, how deeply I trusted the person who would destroy me. They just saw a broken woman screaming. And maybe that's why this story hurts so much to tell, because before the breakdown, before the drugs, before the cameras, I really believed I was healing. I really believed Claire was saving me. It started small, a few missed hours here and there, losing track of time, forgetting simple things. I'd find my coffee still full, cold on the counter, and wonder when I'd poured it. At first, I blamed stress. The custody hearing was only weeks away, and Mark's lawyer was relentless. Every day there was another email, another form to sign, another reminder that my life, my children, were being measured on paper. Claire was my anchor. At least, that's what I thought. She'd bring me chamomile tea before bed, refill my pill organizer, and sit beside me while I swallowed them. She'd say, "You're doing great, Jess. Just breathe." I didn't notice that she always watched me closely afterward, eyes following every swallow, every blink, like she was waiting for something to happen. A few days later, I started feeling different. My hands shook constantly. I'd hear faint whispers at night, not loud enough to make out, just enough to keep me awake. When I looked out the window, shadows moved where there was nothing. I told Claire. She hugged me tight and whispered, "It's the stress, honey. You're fine. You just need rest." She said it like a lullaby, calm and reassuring, and it worked, for a while. But then the headaches came, blinding, pulsing pain that made me dizzy. I'd forget entire conversations. Once I woke up sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by broken glass, blood on my palms. Claire said I'd fainted and dropped a plate. I wanted to believe her. The next week, my therapist noticed something off. I was jittery, unfocused, my pupils dilated. She asked if I'd changed medications. I said no. I was still taking the same antidepressants. Claire had picked them up from the pharmacy last time. Therapist: maybe talk to your doctor about side effects. Me: yeah, I will. Therapist: you've come too far to let this spiral again, Jessica. Stay grounded. I nodded, but deep down I was terrified. Something was spiraling and I couldn't stop it. By the third week, everything blurred together. My dreams were violent, vivid. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing, convinced someone was standing over me. Claire would rush in, pretending to comfort me, stroking my hair. Claire: it's just nightmares, Jess. You're safe. I promise. Safe. That word lost meaning. One afternoon, Eli came home from school crying. He said Auntie Claire told him Mommy was sick again, that she might need special help. I pulled her aside immediately. Me: what are you telling my kids? Claire: I'm just preparing them, Jess. They need to understand what's happening. Me: nothing's happening. I'm fine. Claire, quietly smiling: you don't look fine. The way she said it, soft, almost tender, made me doubt myself. Maybe I really wasn't fine. Maybe I was slipping. A few nights later, I woke up to the sound of my own voice. My phone was recording. I had no memory of turning it on. In the audio, I was muttering, crying, saying things that didn't make sense. Things about spiders under my skin, voices in the walls. When I confronted Claire, she looked genuinely concerned. Claire: Jess, you need help. I've been documenting everything for the custody hearing, just in case. Me: documenting? You've been recording me? Claire: because I care about you. I need proof that you're getting worse, so they'll give you the treatment you need. I didn't realize then that she wasn't collecting evidence for me. She was building a case against me. Days blurred into nights. The walls felt like they were breathing. The whispers got louder. Once I ran outside barefoot, convinced the house was filling with smoke. There was none. Claire stood on the porch, phone in hand, recording silently. When the police arrived, she told them I'd been having a psychotic episode. They nodded sympathetically, helped me into the ambulance, and Claire handed them a small orange bottle of pills. Claire: she's been off her medication again. I tried to help. Off my medication? I'd taken every pill she gave me. At the hospital, they called it acute stress reaction. I stayed 3 nights under observation. No one listened when I said my pills tasted bitter lately, or that my cousin might have tampered with them. They just smiled kindly like I was paranoid. When I came home, everything felt hollow. My kids barely looked at me. Claire had taken over completely. School runs, meals, bedtime. I felt like a ghost in my own house. Then came the call from my lawyer. Jessica, Mark's side submitted new evidence, a video of your breakdown. The court date's been moved up. I froze. What video? He hesitated. It's disturbing. I think your cousin filmed it. That's when it all clicked. Every headache, every whisper, every kind word. Claire hadn't been saving me. She'd been dismantling me piece by piece. And by the time I realized it, she already had everything she needed to finish what she started. The day of the hearing, it was raining. Not just outside, but inside me. That kind of rain that doesn't stop, that soaks into your bones. I remember standing in front of the courthouse mirror, fixing my hair with shaking hands. My lawyer, Dana, tried to sound confident. Dana, we'll be fine. Just answer truthfully, stay calm. Me, they think I'm crazy. Dana, then let's show them you're not. That's what I planned to do, tell the truth, simple, honest. But I didn't know that truth doesn't matter when the lie is prettier. Inside, the courtroom was cold. The walls smelled like disinfectant and old paper. Mark sat on one side, perfectly put together. New suit, polished shoes, fake concern painted on his face. And right behind him, sitting like a saint, was Claire. She smiled at me when our eyes met. That same gentle, practiced smile she'd used every time she poisoned me. When the judge entered, everything went silent. My chest tightened. This was it. The moment everything either fixed itself or fell apart. The first few minutes were about routine, custody history, medical reports, prior incidents. Then Mark's lawyer stood and played the video. The screen lit up with my kitchen. And there I was, wild-eyed, screaming, tearing through drawers. My voice echoed through the room. They're in the walls. They're crawling under my skin. I wanted to close my eyes, but I couldn't look away. I watched myself unravel. I watched Claire's hand steady, holding the phone. The video ended with me on the floor, shaking, crying. Then silence. Judge, Miss Lane, is that you in the video? Me, yes, but... Judge, and you were under the influence of your prescribed medication? Me, yes, but something was wrong with it. I didn't know then. Mark's lawyer cut me off, smirking. Lawyer, Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself. Miss Lane's cousin, Claire Matthews, witnessed multiple breakdowns over several weeks. She even tried to help. I turned to Claire, searching her face for a sign of guilt, of shame, anything. But she just nodded sadly, like she pitied me. Claire, Jessica wasn't herself, Your Honor. I love her, but she was gone. I was afraid for the kids. Her voice broke perfectly on cue. A few jurors even looked teary. I wanted to scream, to tell them she was lying, that she made me that way. But every time I tried to speak, my words sounded hysterical, desperate, exactly what they expected. When it was my turn to testify, my voice barely held together. Me. I didn't stop taking my meds. She gave them to me. I trusted her. I think she changed something. The courtroom murmured. The judge frowned. Judge, do you have any proof of that claim, Miss Lane? Me. No, but... Judge, then it's speculation. Let's focus on verified evidence. Verified evidence. That's what killed me, because the only thing verified was the lie. My therapist spoke next. She said I'd been making progress until recent deterioration. She meant well, but every word only confirmed their story. And when the judge asked if anyone could take temporary guardianship of my children, Claire raised her hand. Claire, they're comfortable with me already. I can keep them until Jessica recovers. Recover. That word cut deep. It meant they already decided I was broken. By the time the gavel came down, I was staring at the floor. Judge, this court awards full temporary custody to Claire Matthews, pending further psychological evaluation of the mother. The room blurred. I couldn't breathe. I remember the sound of Sophie crying. Not loud, just a soft, confused whimper. Eli tried to reach for me, but Claire pulled him close, whispering something I couldn't hear. And just like that, they were gone. Outside the courthouse, I collapsed on the steps. Rain soaked through my dress, mixing with tears I didn't even feel. Dana sat beside me quietly, her hand on my shoulder. Dana, we can appeal. Me, no. Dana, Jessica, this isn't over. Me, it's already over. I didn't have the strength to fight anymore. I thought maybe if I stayed quiet, the truth would find its way out on its own. But it didn't. The weeks after the ruling were empty. The house was silent. The kids' rooms stayed untouched, their beds made, their toys waiting. I still made 2 peanut butter sandwiches every morning out of habit, one with grape jelly for Eli, one with honey for Sophie, and then threw them away at night. I kept hoping Claire would call, say she was sorry, say it was all a mistake. Instead, she sent a text one morning. Claire, the kids are doing great. I'll send pictures soon. Pictures. Like they were hers now. That's when something inside me broke quietly. No screaming, no drama. Just a hollow acceptance that I had been erased from their lives, from the truth, from everything I once was. But fate has a strange sense of timing. Because 2 years later, when my phone rang and her lawyer said, Jessica, we need to talk, now. That hollow space inside me started to breathe again, and for the first time in years I felt something sharp, not sadness, not fear, anger. 2 years. That's how long it had been since the custody ruling. 730 days of silence, therapy, and pretending to be okay. I'd stopped counting birthdays, stopped marking holidays. The house had become a museum, rooms frozen in time, as if Eli and Sophie would walk through the door any minute. But they never did. I'd rebuilt myself piece by piece. New apartment, steady job at a local art shop, still going to therapy. My doctor said healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about learning to breathe around the pain. I was learning, slowly, until that phone call shattered everything. Phone ringing again. Faint click. Jessica. Hello? Voice. Nervous. Male. Is this Jessica Lane? Jessica. Yes. Voice. This is Alan Pierce. I represent Claire Matthews. His tone made my stomach twist. Lawyers never call unless something's wrong. Jessica. What does she want? Alan. It's not about her wanting anything. It's about what's come to light. Jessica. You're going to have to be clearer than that. Alan. The hospital finally released the delayed toxicology report from your 2021 admission. We need to talk. My heart stopped. For a moment, the room tilted. Jessica. Toxicology report? Alan. Yes. It confirms your bloodstream contained LSD, psilocybin, and traces of a synthetic hallucinogen. Those weren't part of your prescription. Jessica. What are you saying? Alan. I'm saying someone tampered with your medication. I didn't speak. Couldn't. The air felt heavy, like every molecule was pressing against me. Alan. Jessica, I'm calling because we have a serious problem. Claire's testimony, her statements, the evidence. If this comes out, it implicates more than just her. He sounded panicked, like a man realizing the floor beneath him had cracked open. Jessica, you mean it proves she drugged me? Alan, it suggests deliberate contamination, yes. Jessica, she switched my pills. Alan, pause. You should come in. We can discuss this properly. I hung up. For a long time, I just sat there, hands trembling, mind blank. Then, all at once, it hit me. The world went silent except for one thought that pulsed in my head like thunder. She did it. She really did it. All the gaslighting, the recordings, the tears in court. It had all been part of her plan. And now, finally, I had proof. I don't remember standing up, but suddenly I was in my car, driving through the rain. The same courthouse from 2 years ago came into view, its cold concrete walls still watching like they'd never moved. Inside Alan's office, he looked pale, sweating through his shirt. Alan. Jessica, please understand. I didn't know. Claire came to us with everything organized. The video, the witness notes, even the medical history. It was airtight. Jessica. And you never questioned it? Alan. She was convincing. Jessica. She's a psychopath. Alan. If this report is accurate, yes, we're contacting the DA. There could be criminal charges. Criminal charges. The words tasted like oxygen. When I left his office, the rain had stopped. The world felt eerily still, like it was waiting. I drove straight to the small cafe near the park, the same one Claire and I used to go to after therapy sessions. I sat in the corner, the same seat where she once told me, "You're safe with me." Safe. That word twisted in my stomach until it burned. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through old photos. Sophie's birthday, Eli's soccer game, Claire standing behind them, smiling like she'd earned the right to be in every frame. Then a message popped up. Unknown number. We should talk before things get worse. It was her. I didn't respond. I just stared at the screen until my reflection blurred with tears I didn't realize I'd been holding back. For 2 years, she'd lived freely, raising my children, wearing the mask of the savior, while I carried the label of unfit mother. But now, that mask was cracking. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept imagining the look on her face when the police showed up, when the truth came out, when her perfect world started to crumble. In my mind, I saw her courtroom smile shatter, and for the first time since losing my kids, I wasn't afraid anymore. I was angry, cold, deliberate, focused. I called Dana, my old lawyer, first thing the next morning. Jessica, I want to reopen my custody case. Dana, Jessica, are you sure you're ready for this? Jessica, I'm more than ready. This time, I have proof. As I hung up, I looked out the window at the sunrise. The world didn't look softer or brighter, just honest. The truth had finally caught up to Claire, and somewhere deep inside, for the first time in years, I smiled. Not out of joy, but justice. Tell Claire I'm coming, and this time, I'm bringing the truth with me. When I said I was coming for her, I didn't mean revenge, not the kind you see in movies, no screaming, no chaos, no violence. I meant truth. I meant the kind of justice that cuts quietly and leaves no room to lie. It took months. The system that broke me once doesn't heal quickly, but this time I wasn't alone. Dana came back as my attorney, stronger and fiercer than before. We filed a motion to reopen the custody case based on newly discovered evidence. The toxicology report was the key, verified, time-stamped, and undeniable. Claire's world began to crumble fast. The DA's office launched a criminal investigation into tampering with prescription medication and perjury. When they searched her home, they found an unmarked bag of empty capsules in her vanity drawer. The same brand my medication came in. They also found footage she hadn't submitted to the court, clips she'd never meant anyone to see. One of them showed her laughing behind the camera as I cried on the floor. Another, from the night before my episode, showed her opening my pill bottle, whispering, "This'll make you calm down, Jess." When those surfaced, even Alan, her own lawyer, turned against her. The day she was arrested, I didn't celebrate. I didn't even go to the courthouse. I stayed home, sitting by the same window where I used to drink coffee and wonder if I'd ever feel normal again. I just watched the light move across the wall, thinking, this is what truth looks like when it finally arrives. Slow, quiet, certain. A month later, I got a call from Child Services. They said the kids were being moved from Claire's temporary guardianship pending the case outcome. The words made my knees give out. Caseworker. You'll have supervised visits at first, Jessica. If everything goes well, we can begin reunification. Jessica. Supervised is fine. I just want to see them. The first visit was at a family center, a small, neutral room with toys and coloring books. My hands shook the entire drive there. I kept imagining how they'd look now, how tall they'd gotten, whether they'd remember me at all. When I walked in, Eli was sitting on the floor with Legos. Sophie was coloring at a tiny table. For a second, neither of them looked up. Then Sophie turned, eyes wide, the crayon falling from her hand. Sophie, Mommy? It was the softest sound I'd ever heard. A word that didn't accuse or question, just recognized. I knelt down and she ran into my arms. Eli joined a moment later, quiet but holding on so tightly it hurt, the kind of hurt I'd prayed for every night. We didn't talk much that first hour. I just held them, breathed them in, memorized the weight of them again. Afterward, the caseworker said softly, "They missed you. They never stopped asking why you couldn't come home." That night, I sat in my car for a long time before driving off. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. Tired eyes, older lines, but something new too. Strength, a quiet fire. Over the next few months, I kept going to therapy, kept showing up to every meeting, every evaluation, every visit. Step by step, I earned back what had been stolen from me. When the judge finally restored full custody, he said one sentence I'll never forget. Judge, Miss Lane, the court owes you an apology. I didn't need his apology. I just needed my kids back. Now, 2 years later, we live in a small house near the coast. There's laughter again. Messy, loud, imperfect laughter. Sophie paints seashells on the porch. Eli rides his bike down the street until I yell for dinner. Sometimes, at night, I still wake up in a cold sweat, heart racing, thinking I'm back in that old nightmare. But then I hear their breathing from the next room, and I know it's over. The court ordered Claire into psychiatric evaluation and custody. She'll likely spend years in prison. They say she still claims she did it for the children. I don't care what she says anymore. Her voice doesn't live in my head now. I've learned something through all of this. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it hugs you when you're crying. And sometimes it calls itself family. But truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits. It outlasts the lies. When I tuck my kids in at night, I whisper the same thing every time. No one's ever taking you away again. And maybe the world isn't fair. Maybe justice took too long. But for the first time, I feel peace. Because they said crazy mothers raise crazy kids. But I say, only the liars make you feel crazy. And now, I'm done being their lie. This time, no one's switching my pills. If you've watched this far, thank you. This story wasn't easy to tell. It took years for me to find the strength to speak about what happened. About what it means to lose everything because someone you trusted wanted to see you fall. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Silence protects the wrong people. And healing starts the moment you stop hiding from your own truth. Some of you watching might know someone like Claire. Someone who smiles at you while secretly breaking you down. And maybe you've been where I was, gaslit, disbelieved, erased. If that's you, please hear me. You're not crazy. You're not weak. You're surviving. And surviving is the strongest thing you'll ever do. If this story hit you hard, or if you believe truth should always find the light, do me one favor. Like this video so more people can hear it. Share it with someone who needs to. And subscribe to the channel if you want more true stories of survival, betrayal, and finding strength after chaos. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Stories that remind us that even in the darkest lies. And remember, no matter how lost you feel, the truth is still yours. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find their truth too. Subscribe for more true stories that matter.